Thursday, July the 14th, and welcome to From the South. Brazil's Chamber of Deputies has finally elected a new House Speaker in right-wing politician Rodrigo Maia. Leftist lawmakers walked out of the session to voice their disgust on the appointment. Former House Speaker Eduardo Cunha spearheaded the drive to impeach suspended President Dilma Rousseff, but recently resigned the post. The next government of Pedro Pablo Kuczynski will have to attend to 212 social conflicts that have not been resolved, and there is an ongoing debate over the state policies to resolve the demands of the affected population.
Since social conflicts resulted in 50 deaths and 750 injured people during the 5 years of the government of Ollanta Humala, future President Pedro Pablo Kuczynski has responded with proposals to finance services for the communities involved.
We are going to promote social advancement in all the areas of possible conflicts. What does this mean? It means the state is going to provide electricity, schools, hospitals, health posts, and roads so that people feel like they are part of the country.
For social conflicts expert José de Chávez, the situation will worsen if Kuczynski does not show an ability to rapidly intervene and he limits solutions to economic offerings that do not include remedies for the environmental contamination. The copper project of La Oroya, for example, has 90% of the population with levels of lead much higher than the recommendations for a healthy life.
If we continue with this tendency to not understand the multidimensional character of the conflict and not understanding that there is a legitimate agenda behind the conflicts that the state should address, we are again going to have blockades to stop the projects.
According to the NGO Copper Action, in 70% of the conflicts, locals are ready to permit social and environmental responsible extractive industries, while in the other 30% of the conflicts, the population rejects any possibility of such operations. Rael Mora, teleSur, Peru.
Colombia's President Juan Manuel Santos has responded to the month-long protest action by truckers. Santos has added 50,000 more security troops to the nation's roads, adding that the protest action was unacceptable. The truckers say some of their demands include the effective implementation of a scrapping fund, social programs for drivers, safer roads, and the reduced cost of tolls and fuel. One protester has already died due to protest anti-riot police clashes.
Well, that was quite an experience. That's my first time up close to beehives, and the temperature in there, in these heavy clothes, is really hot, so you can see I'm sweating quite heavily.
Two of the students at this school for agroecology had taken us into the hives. Beekeeping is one of a dozen areas they study.
Y ellos chupan ese jarabe es lo principal para las crías y para la reina. Pero no la va a levantar. ¿Para qué? Ah, bueno, tranquila. Estas tienen miel, ¿ves? Estas son las mieles que ellos empiezan a alimentarse.
The center was set up by Hugo Chavez, along with the Brazilian landless movement, to promote an alternative to large-scale industrial agriculture. The idea is that the students should become not so much experts in the traditional sense as agents of change.
But here at the Paulo Freire Agroecological Institute near Barinas, and for the students studying here, the point of keeping bees, the point of teaching people to keep bees in this organically friendly way is not just about getting good quality honey. It is about that, of course, as well. But what they want to promote across the whole Venezuelan farming community is an understanding of bees as an integral part of the agricultural ecology and as a key mechanism for defending biodiversity. And indeed that's what this whole institute's purpose is. Ian Bruce, teleSur in Barinas State.
Mourners paid their respects to the man killed by police last week in Minnesota, Philando Castile. His death came the same week as that of another black man in Louisiana, whose death was also from police gunfire. Their deaths have both sparked protests nationwide and intensified the long-running debate about how law enforcement interacts with blacks all over the United States. The European Commission has for the third time hit Google with antitrust charges. They allege that Google has abused its dominance in restricted competition and internet shopping. It is also accused of abusing its dominant position by artificially preventing third-party websites from displaying search advertisements from its competitors. A heavily armed Ugandan military convoy has crossed into South Sudan to evacuate citizens trapped by recent fighting in the capital, Juba. The operation comes a day after the United Nations warned of the possibility of fresh fighting in Juba, despite a 2-day ceasefire that followed a 4-day outbreak of violence. Taliban militant Umar Narai, who masterminded a deadly attack on a Pakistani school in 2014, has been killed in a US-led airstrike. According to US and Pakistani officials, Narai was killed over the weekend in the Nangarhar province, in Afghanistan near the border with Pakistan. Israeli warplanes launched several airstrikes on the central Gaza Strip in another act of aggression against the besieged territory. Noor Harazin has more.
Israeli forces launched several airstrikes on Palestinian lands in the central Gaza Strip late Wednesday night. Palestinian sources said that the warplanes targeted lands east of the El Bureij refugee camp with at least 2 rockets. Earlier in the evening, 2 Israeli rockets hit an unknown target south of the Camera military site, which is home to the Palestinian resistance. No casualties were reported. The sources added that Israeli drones are still flying over Gaza at noticeably low levels. Tensions have been rising in the Gaza Strip since Tuesday after a young Israeli Arab citizen crossed the border fence from Israel to Gaza. The missing man was identified as 19-year-old Jum'a Ibrahim Abu Ghneima, a resident of an Israeli border settlement in the south of Israel. Israel believes Jum'a is now being held captive by Hamas militants as he disappeared shortly after crossing the fence, citing the group's security control over that area of the fence.
We don't want war. We don't want destruction. We want to live in security. We have already been through enough over the last war. Many of the homes that were destroyed during the war are still unrepaired. We want to live in peace and security.
2 years after Israel's last devastating war on the Gaza Strip in 2014, residents in the besieged territory are unwilling for a new escalation of tensions. The outcome of the 2014 assault was catastrophic, with 2,100 Palestinian civilians killed and more than 10,000 injured. But the way things are going means it is just a matter of time and another war is certainly on the way. Noor Harazin, teleSur's TV, Gaza.
Thousands of runners travel from all over the world to take part in the Pamplona Bull Run. 8 people were taken to hospital with minor injuries on July the 8th, but no one was gored. The run from the bullpen to the city's bull ring starts at 8 AM local time. The last run lasted 2 minutes and 20 seconds. More on these and other stories on our website telesurtv.net/English.